Ah, I thought this outfit of a nice bright yellow and blue would fit today because it's bright and sunny outside. And I'm wearing bright and sunny clothes. Good morning, happy Sunday, everyone. I'm actually really excited right now. I'm going to a very special event shortly after I finish recording this video. So before I get into what that is, let's talk about my act of kindness. I would say that my low is I totally procrastinated getting out of bed today. I did. I mean, luckily the event I'm going to doesn't start until like 11 and it's 10 after 10. I should be able to finish recording this in the short and getting over to where I gotta go. My high is I got to see my family, my nephews last night. I got to be with them for a little while. I also got to see Strat Cat, Willie Hayes, and the Strays. That was actually really cool. I got my Slurpee from 7-Eleven on 7-Eleven. And I totally got to mix cherry, blue raspberry, and Coke. Because I did. And, let's see. Also, yesterday was hot and I still want some frozen treats, so I got my 5-layer gelati from Rita's. It was actually quite good. So yeah, yesterday was a really great day, but today is going to be a real special day. Because last year, Illegal Tap House had this one event that I wasn't able to go to because, again, at this time you're normally at the lake, but again, we're still building. So, this year I'm going to get to go to it. Of course, I mean, I'm trying to think how I go, because I know there's a specific order I should be talking about the following in, but I need to, well, I'll just go out and say it. I'm going to a brunch, a themed brunch. And the theme is the hit Broadway jukebox musical, Mamma Mia, which I actually have experience with. So, first of all, to understand ABBA, or to understand Mamma Mia, you need to understand the music of ABBA, who were a Swedish, is it Swedish folk pop, is it? I got my notes out here. Yeah, Swedish pop music group that was formed in the 1970s. And they're one of the greatest music groups in history. I mean, in a day and age where, you know, you had stuff like, I mean, co-ed groups really wasn't that new of a concept, but remember, these weren't like from America. Like, these are from Sweden. You know, normally, especially, like, even back then, you know, being a hit musical group from America was like the end all be all. But Mamma Mia, but ABBA was definitely the, that was the standout. You know, their music it's catchy. I mean, it's a little bit on the cheesy side, to be sure. But come on, this was the 1970s. You know, things were a lot different back then. Which leads to the music being so incredibly good that they made a jukebox musical out of it for Broadway called Mamma Mia, which is arguably ABBA's best song. So, and I actually have seen Mamma Mia. Yes. Now, I need to take you back all the way to 2006. Years before I even knew I wanted to make videos every day. Back when my grandmother on my mother's side was alive, God rest her soul, she had a tradition where if any of us turned 16, she would fly us out to where she lived in Las Vegas and we'd stay there for a little bit. Which, I mean, which is actually one of the reasons why I never really had a Sweet 16 when I was turning 16. That, and plus I was a loser back then. I didn't think anyone I invited would come. But again, Vegas, baby. I mean, don't get too worked up over it. It was, I mean, hindsight 2020, it was an okay trip. I mean, I had to stay with my grandparents, and I had to stick, I mean, I was still 16. I still had to stick by them for, going out and such. And, but I did a lot of the big stuff, like I did, the Manhattan Express in New York, New York, went to Circus, stuff like that. I mean, again, I'm 16 years old. I may be in my I may now officially be in my mid to late teens at that time, but, I still can't do anything that screams debauchery. But one thing I did when I was in Vegas at that time was go see the play Mamma Mia. They were showing the Broadway play in Vegas. And to this day, I still remember when I went. That's why I'm talking about this now. If you've never seen, I mean, they also made a movie about Mamma Mia. I've heard it's just slightly above mediocre at best. Anyway, if you've never seen the play Mamma Mia, and keep in mind, I will be giving out some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen it, feel free to stop the video here. I'm sure you can probably look it up online. I'm sure there's clips of it online somewhere. Or, go to Broadway to watch it. I don't know. I'm sure it's playing listen, there's a lot of Broadway traveling groups. I'm sure Mamma Mia is playing somewhere. Plus, not to mention, ABBA is still really popular even today, so you could listen to their music virtually, anytime, any place. So with that said, the story begins one evening when this one girl who's about to get married sends out 3 letters. See, she lives with her mom, and she's engaged, and this girl is engaged to be married. And she wants her father to walk her down the aisle. One problem though. She doesn't exactly know who her father is. See, she came across her mother's diary, and within the span of I think a week and a half to 2 weeks, her mother was with 3 different men around the time that she would get pregnant with her, and therefore she doesn't know who the dad is. So she sends these 3 letters to all 3 possible, men who could be her dad, with the hopes of, if they are the dad, they could read it and be like, oh, I gotta be there, so they do that. One problem though, all 3 men get their respective letters, and all 3 men arrive for the wedding. So it's a lot of stress on her. It's definitely a lot of stress on the mom. And, there's a few other rather interesting subplots as well. Like, one of the best friends of the groom is hitting on one of the mom's friends, because the mom has her 2 friends come as well, because their best friend's daughter is getting married. You have to be there to support her. And so there's one of the groom's best friends is hitting on one of the mom's best friends, which leads to the iconic line, "Son, I'm old enough to be your mother." Stuff like that. And keep in mind, this is kind of the guilty pleasure of mine, but growing up, one of my favorite, gags in any show or movie or whatever is, the girl chasing the guy. And that totally happens in Mamma Mia. Specifically, it's 5 minutes before the wedding starts, one of the mom's other friends, the one that wasn't had by the groom's friend, is getting like the final preparations for the wedding, and one of the guys who might potentially be, the bride's dad, shows up, and he's drinking, like, he's the world traveler, he's the he's a loner, and he thinks it'd be nice to have a family, but again, he's the lone wolf. And then it leads into the iconic scene where the mom's friend sings "Take a Chance on Me," which I would say "Take a Chance on Me" is my favorite ABBA song. I think so. And there's a lot of good ABBA songs, like "Super Trooper," "Lay All Your Love on Me," "Dancing Queen," of course. Come on. The play is called Mamma Mia. Of course, you're going to hear Mamma Mia. In fact, that was a really good scene, too, where, the bride's mom sees that all three men that she had relationships with and could potentially be her daughter's father is there. So that leads to some fun shenanigans. So again, there's a lot of, I guess seeing Mamma Mia when I did at age 16 was like just the right time for me, because, I was, going through puberty. I was about 2 years into liking girls. So, and, the idea of like thinking about your future and, finding a nice girl and getting married, it's fun. I can see where it's definitely a bit nerve-wracking for sure, but the idea was fun. And, you have the music of ABBA making it, exciting and interesting and upbeat and fun. Now, this is the part where I get into spoilers. So, at the very end, the bride and groom actually don't get married in the literal sense. They feel like things are moving a bit too fast, and they are still together, but they want to travel the world and explore things for themselves, spend a little more time together. Not that they didn't already, but they want to get married. Like, they want to do it on their terms, not like the traditional terms that you would normally see. But a wedding still goes on, because I said earlier that the three men who could potentially be, the bride's dad, all arrive. And all three of them have widely different personalities. And it kind of makes, you have, again, I mentioned the intrepid traveler earlier. There's one who, kind of, keeps to himself, and one is, the most preppy and kind of, you would think they'd be, the lead. In some ways, you kind of wonder, how did this woman, become attracted and have relations with three different personality men, So, the bride's mom winds up getting married to the more preppy guy, who could, again, potentially be, the bride's dad. And that's actually another spoiler you get into, because normally, whenever you have something that ends on a cliffhanger or leaves an ending that's ambiguous, it is kind of a turnoff for me. And in the case of Mamma Mia, we never really find out who the bride's father actually is. Biologically, genetically, of course. This takes place in anywhere between the late 70s and early 90s. So, genetic technology and figuring out, who the parents are, I think it might have existed back then. So, I'm sure, I like to believe that, off screen, they figured out who the dad is. But I'm actually kind of glad we never really learned who the dad is during the actual show. Because, listen, Mamma Mia, for as popular of a show as it is, there is a lot going on. It's one of the reasons why the movie that came out in 2008, again, got the reviews that it got. Because it does a lot. And the movie itself is all up in your face. At least with the play, it's definitely more subtle. And again, I like the idea that you never really learn who the bride's dad really is. I mean, do I have me? I mean, the way I see it, if they actually add like yet another subplot of them trying to figure out who the biological father is, that would just have been too much on a show that already has a lot going on, for sure. On top of that, let's say for the sake of argument that the show is written that you do know who the father actually is. We spend the entirety of the play, for as much as is going on, I thought the play did a really solid job of showing off everyone's personalities. Like, for the most part, I would say everyone's pretty well written in a three-dimensional sense. So if you got to know the characters, especially the three men who could potentially be the dad, and the person like you were rooting for to be the dad winds up not being the dad, it would probably be a huge turnoff for a lot of, play watchers. And I get that. At least by keeping it, still ambiguous, it leads up to your own interpretation. I like that. For once, I guess it's kind of like, could you take the time to explain it and figure it out? You could, but it would kind of take away from what, the point is. I mean, for me, the interesting fact about the show was wondering who the bride's dad actually is. And, trying to figure out who it might be. But you grow to like these guys so much that, you'd be happy if either one of those three men is her dad. And the fact they leave it a mystery, leads to your own interpretation. Over the years, I've thought, who the dad, I mean, if I were to make a guess of who the dad actually is, I would actually, to me, I think it's the guy that the bride's mom wound up marrying at the end. I think so. I really should get to take a chance to learn everyone's names. Okay. Right, so Sophie is the bride, and so she sends the letters to oh, right, it's Sam. So Donna's the mom, and Sam is the one who the mom winds up marrying. Which, to me, I always thought that maybe Sam was Sophie's real dad. I think so. But, actually, who are the, okay, so Sam, Bill, and Harry. Sam, Bill, and Harry. So, again, to me, I always thought that Sam was the, hold on. So, yeah, Sam the architect. I think Sam the architect is the one who is Sophie's real dad. At least I think so. And you get to know, for as much as there's going on, there's actually, I thought whoever wrote the play did a solid job of, making everybody seem like you want to root for, say, Bill to be the dad, or, Harry to be the dad, or, maybe Donna would wind up marrying, Bill or Harry instead of Sam, In the end, you kind of you end it with, it's pretty satisfying. Honestly, Mamma Mia, the more I think about it, really is a satisfying show. If you're a Broadway fan, or if you're someone who likes to watch plays, of course I recommend you. I mean, listen, there's a reason why Mamma Mia is one of the longest running shows in Broadway history. There's a reason, again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that ABBA's music is actually really catchy. And listen, plays and music, just like comedy, it's all subjective. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that don't think ABBA's very good. And that's fine. More power to you. I mean, me personally, I don't really think there's a genre of music I hate. There's definitely songs I hate hearing, to be sure. But actual genre, I mean, I don't think I personally dislike a genre of music, to be sure. And, you know, ABBA's music's good. I like it. And I'm going to be going to a brunch celebrating everything that's Mamma Mia, and I can't wait to go and see what it is. Hope you like this video. If you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm your homie. For all you guys watching your video. You have a wonderful Sunday. Remember, you guys want to talk to you to let me know. Back. Take care. Make good choices. 607 all day, baby.